This is a heist for the New York Mets. Ryan Helsley's stock is quickly increasing with teams, including the Mets, wanting him. It makes the task tougher, but the reward would certainly pay off and fans would love it, especially those that are dying for David Stearns to make a bullpen move here in 2025. And that's exactly what we're going to go over here only on Mets Digest. I'm your host today, Mike Duda. We're going to talk Ryan Helsley and the Mets, but first we got to talk about some subscribers, and that being that 69.2% of you that watch these videos aren't one. So please do me a favor, do us a favor here at Mets Digest, and hit that free subscribe button. That way we can bring content to you about the amazing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into the St. Louis Cardinals closer in Ryan Helsley, who is a name that has heated up in these trade rumors a ton, specifically today, July 29th, as well. First and foremost, turn it over to the insiders. Mark Feinsand of MLB.com breaks just how hot this name has gotten, as he says, quote, Ryan Helsley is one of the most popular trade targets, with no less than a half dozen teams interested to varying degrees. Among the suitors, per sources, are the New York Yankees, New York Mets, Los Angeles Dodgers, Philadelphia Phillies, Texas Rangers, and Toronto Blue Jays. Now, not only Helsley is on the block from St. Louis, there are other players too, as it looks like the Cardinals are indeed going to be sellers. We're going to turn it over to Tom Romaneski of The Score, who says, quote, the Cardinals are reportedly willing to listen to offers for the 2024 MLB saves leader, third baseman Nolan Arenado, and right-hander Sonny Gray, among others. So, plenty of things to offer from the St. Louis Cardinals, plenty of players to offer. That means the Mets, if they go out and get Helsley, could possibly do a deal where they get two guys, maybe Sonny Gray and Ryan Helsley in a blockbuster deal. Who knows? But one thing that I do know is that the Houston Astros are now involved solely because of Arenado. John Morosi of MLB Network now including Houston, as he says, quote, Nolan Arenado's name has come up in trade talks between the Astros and Cardinals, but there's no momentum toward a deal as of this morning. Now, going back to Romaneski from The Score, he also says, quote, the Astros tried to acquire Arenado last offseason, but the 8-time All-Star used his no-trade clause to block the deal. There has been multiple occasions, particularly with the Cardinals, that Arenado has been on the trade block, looking to get shipped elsewhere, with the Cardinals looking to trade him, flip him for some prospects, but it hasn't happened yet. So who knows, it might happen here in 2025. And the reason why I bring this up, this obviously is an Astros Digest. I bring this up because a deal, just like I'm thinking Helsley and Gray, it could be Helsley and Arenado to Houston, and of course that would steal Helsley away from New York. Now, of course, I'm spoiling it now. I really like Ryan Helsley, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. As first, we're going to hear from him himself, as he actually speaks about these rumors, saying, quote, it's a little bit different this time. The likelihood is probably as great as it's ever been for me to get traded. I would say it's 90% I go, 10% I stay. So it's almost a guarantee that Ryan Helsley is on the move, and the Mets are and definitely should be a suitor. According to John Spiracco of Sports Illustrated, he says, quote, even after acquiring left-handed reliever Gregory Soto on Friday, the New York Mets remain focused on upgrading their bullpen ahead of the July 31st trade deadline. In an article published Sunday, The Athletic's Will Salmon pointed to the need for a top setup man option behind all-star closer Edwin Diaz, who is having just an incredible season. He reported that the Mets are interested in multiple relievers, but are eyeing at least one arm that would clearly address that specific role. That role, of course, being a setup man. Now, Helsley is the closer in St. Louis, but it's pretty obvious that Diaz is better than Helsley, as good as Helsley is. So Helsley would very simply just become the setup man. He'd be that 8th inning guy. As let's go hear from Salmon himself. He talks to the specifics, saying, quote, Ryan Helsley is a reliever the Mets have expressed some interest in, but they've yet to have any discussions about him with the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, this ties into the weekend thing that I was talking about in my past couple of videos, and that being, I made a whole video about this, how David Stearns said that he was going to take this past weekend to more just evaluate how teams are doing in terms of, are they going to be buyers, are they going to be sellers, and it looks like St. Louis will be sellers. So that's probably why the Mets haven't had any discussions about Helsley with the Cardinals yet. But now that it's almost fully confirmed that the Cardinals are selling at the deadline, it's time for Stearns and the front office to start talking to St. Louis and start trying to get a deal in place for Ryan Helsley, because it's a good thing that St. Louis is indeed sellers. We turn it now to Joseph Zucker of the Bleacher Report, who says, quote, "The Cardinals didn't start a full-scale rebuild in the offseason, but the impending arrival of Chaim Bloom points to their organizational pivot. Bloom will take over from John Mozeliak as president of baseball operations after the season, and he's spending this year with a focus on the player development side, not necessarily go win it all now." And that adds up, because look at them in their standings right now. 3.5 games out of that third wildcard slot in the San Diego Padres, also trailing the Reds, in addition to having to overthrow the Padres. They're only a half game better than the Giants, who are also kind of in the middle of nowhere. They're probably going to be buyers because they bought Rafael Devers earlier this season, way before the trade deadline, but they still went out and got Devers, so it looks like Buster Posey's first season in San Francisco as the president of baseball ops is going to be a buying one. But the Cardinals have really just fallen off of late. They are 4th in the National League Central, 9 games back of the division-leading Milwaukee Brewers. Now, I get it. Milwaukee is one of the best teams in baseball. They're the best team record-wise in the National League, and it's tough to win that division, but you're behind them, you're behind the Chicago Cubs, and you're also behind the Cincinnati Reds, and I just don't see a wild card spot in place for them. Milwaukee's definitely making the playoffs, Dodgers, probably the Mets, probably the Phillies, and probably the Padres as well. So you have a bunch of teams there. You have the 6 teams that are in the playoff slot right now as the 6 teams that I would almost guarantee to make the playoffs. I really don't see anything changing from this when we get to the end of the season, maybe with the exception of some seeding. Moreover, the Cardinals are 8-15 in their last 23, and they're 4-6 in their last 10, and that's only because they won last night. So they are on the decline as a team and will likely be sellers. But we have some unfortunate news that we covered yesterday about Emmanuel Clase. Now, you may say, okay, well, why do the Guardians have anything to do with the Cardinals and with the Mets? Well, Joseph Zucker is going to continue. He says, quote, "St. Louis got an unexpected boost with MLB placing Cleveland Guardians closer Emmanuel Clase on non-disciplinary paid leave as it continues an inquiry into sports betting allegations, per ESPN's Jeff Passan. Any team pursuing Clase will have to start looking at Helsley if it wasn't already. Still, the 31-year-old is one of the best relievers on the board, which only became more true after removing Clase from the picture. He would almost certainly net the Cardinals a solid return in a trade." Now, the reason why I mention this, why do I bring up Clase as I bring up the stats here from Helsley? Because with Clase being someone that you might not want to trade for anymore, teams that want to go get a closer, not even the Mets who want a setup man and want Helsley for a setup man, there were teams who wanted a closer and were going to say, hey, let's go make a blockbuster deal and go bring in one of the best closers in baseball in Emmanuel Clase. Now they're going to be skeptical of bringing in Clase. He's currently on paid leave. He's not suspended. He can technically be traded, but teams are hesitant now because of those allegations with the sports betting. They're not going to be as willing to trade for Clase, so now they need to find a replacement, and Ryan Helsley, he's a closer. He would be the perfect replacement. As you look at the stats, he's had a really, really good year. The only thing I don't like is 21 saves, but he has blown 5, so he's 21 of 26, including 3 consecutive blown saves in 3 consecutive outings from June 5th to June 9th, spiking his ERA to 3.75 from a 3.27 at that point. But as you can tell, he has significantly come down in the ERA, now sitting at a 3. He's also 3-1. He's pitched in 36 games, 36 innings, 41 Ks, so better than a 9 strikeout per 9, which you should expect from a closer, even though Helsley is not really the strikeout type. The whip is high, but you usually see that with a lot of closers. A lot of closers have some problems with walks, so overall, I really like him. And he should be cheaper than someone like a Mitch Keller. We just talked about Mitch Keller in my last video. Go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. And the reason why I bring that up is because Keller is under control until 2029, which brings his stock way higher, and teams are going to have to pay a lot more compared to a Helsley, who is making $8.2 million this year to avoid arbitration, but he's an unrestricted free agent next year. He is a free agent next year. He hits the market. So a team that trades for him is trading for 2+ months of Helsley plus whatever he can get done in the postseason. So that'll make him probably slightly cheaper, which is good for the Mets because Helsley is going to be a big name. He's a blockbuster guy, and he's going to require quite the heavy package in return. As we'll turn it over to the splits now, much better for whatever reason away and at night. I don't really look at those. I mean, the away and home is decent enough, but look at that lefty-righty. He is much, much better against lefties, which is an interesting point. And as you can tell from the monthly splits, he's had a couple of poor months, April and June, with a 4.50 ERA in both of those, but a 2.45 in May, and this month he's been really good at a 1.29. In fact, he hasn't given up an earned run in the past 15 days, which is really, really solid. Now, what is Helsley going to throw at, guys? He is going to throw a slider four-seamer, basically just 2 pitches. You almost see that 100% of the time with closers. They're going to throw 2 pitches. He technically has a curveball and a cutter, but he's probably not going to go to it. Sitting about 100 miles an hour on that four-seamer, which is very nice. And here are the advanced metrics for Helsley. His breaking stuff is really good, so he is certainly a reliant on that slider. As you can tell from this thing on your screen right now, this screenshot, he throws the slider more than the four-seamer, and therefore you can tell that his breaking stuff is really good. In fact, it's in the 95th percentile in the MLB. Fastball velocity in the 99th, gets a lot of chases in the 94th, and this is actually going to be really interesting because he throws the exact same stuff as Edwin Diaz. Edwin Diaz throws a fastball and a slider, and similarly, when you look at the advanced metrics, it looks like Helsley is basically a very similar, maybe a slightly worse version of Edwin Diaz. Hard fastball and a really nice slider that gets a lot of whiffs, gets a lot of strikeouts as well, avoids the barrel, and he has a really good ground ball rate, which is good. Again, I've mentioned this time and time again, but David Peterson is so good because he gets so many balls on the ground. So Helsley's probably not going to give up a lot of balls in the air, which is really good. Avoid the homers, get a lot of strikeouts, get a lot of balls on the ground. Overall, Helsley is a really, really nice player to have. Look at those stats. Those are really, really solid. So go down there in the comment section. Let me know what you think about Helsley. Do you want him to come to Flushing from St. Louis? I think he's a really, really solid option. He's got great stats, as you saw, against lefties. Coming from the right side, which is cool. He's basically, I would say, a slightly worse version of Edwin Diaz. He throws the same pitches. He's got the same style as Edwin. I think he would be the perfect setup man here in New York. Of course, you want to give up too much, but unfortunately, right now, there are no trade rumors in terms of what actually packages would look like. So you got to hope that the package isn't too great, but Ryan Helsley would be the perfect splash for David Stearns to make. And speaking of splashes that Stearns makes, any trade that he makes is going to be covered here on Mets Digest, as well as all the rumors. We got even more videos coming out later tonight, so stay tuned for that. Adam and I got you covered over the next couple of days. Trade deadline, by the time you're seeing this, is now less than 2 days away. We are within the final 48 hours until the trade deadline. So let's go, Mets. Go make a deal. David Stearns. Unfortunately, this is all the time I have for you in today's video. Thank you so much as always for watching, and let's go, Mets.